And Community Café means that everyone's knowledge and everyone's story is important. That's why you're sitting on relatively small tables, so that you can have a good and in-depth discussion. We're going to have 3 rounds of discussion, and we're going to post a question up here and on these flip charts for everyone to discuss. And you on your tables decide how you want to discuss this, but I encourage you to make sure that everyone who's sitting at a table has a chance to contribute.
What did you value most about the Community Café today?
Well, what was interesting the most to me today was the diversity of cultures and different backgrounds of people who all came together here, and there was a very vibrant discussion among people from different backgrounds.
I think it's the discussions, so the opportunity to talk to people from many different walks of life, from many different cultures, and all coming together to look at a specific issue that we can all offer, you know, fantastic ideas to solving something, or even just throwing ideas out there and just see what sticks against the wall and what doesn't.
To hear their stories, to make it real, not just what I see on the news, so to be enlightened and educated about migrants, about refugees, about asylum seekers.
There is the ability and the opportunity to meet new friends and to learn from everybody. Virtually everybody you speak to has something unique to tell you about their journey to Australia, about their life in Australia, about how they've lived here and how they've experienced life here. So that opportunity is very, very important for me, making the connection with new people.
This is just a chance to meet people who I probably would not have a chance to meet with otherwise. You know, in the environment I'm in, I have kind of my social circle and people who I work with. But beyond that, there isn't really much kind of an extended community. And I'm originally from Canada, so the chance to kind of just get in touch with a wider population is something I valued the most. You just hear different experiences and learn about what your community is like, as opposed to just kind of your sense of what it is. You get a sense to actually get involved in and meet people.
Here, and I really loved just being able to meet different people from Australia and around the world that are just passionate about seeing people as fellow human beings and listening to their stories and being patient with others and just having a real genuine respect and excitement to learn about where other people have come from and what their dreams are, and maybe things that they haven't told other people that they're really grateful to share with people that want to listen to them.
And what did you learn from talking to other people?
Most of the people that I talked to were either born here or came here as migrants in the last couple of years. So I didn't actually have the opportunity to speak to any refugees so far, but what I found was that everyone that I've spoken here today is quite passionate about this, and I think we get a lot of misinformation through the media, and this is an opportunity for us to all come together to share ideas and to look at different ways of doing things now that we're better informed.
From talking to others, I learnt that because it's random who you speak to, and so the people I've spoken to moved here when they were younger, and it was more their parents that were the refugees. And what I learnt was how their parents' life and their life as young has shaped them and influenced them as adults. How they think, how they act.
What I learned particularly about those who actually arrived on boats, and I could just hear some real stories from those people who have put their life in danger and then taking that dangerous journey to Australia. I've never talked to people who have arrived here in Australia by boat, and that was a very good opportunity to hear their stories and see how they have felt or how they've had no choice but to come to Australia on boat.
The main thing for me is that it's very humbling, and particularly thinking about how lucky I've been to have a life of peace and to have access to a good public education, and it just really brought that home. And just that how important it is not to make assumptions about people and to examine your prejudices.
Probably 2 things. One is their personal stories, so hearing about the actual journeys people took to arrive is for sure one thing I learned, like the specifics of their individual journeys. And then also the other thing is just kind of reflecting on my journey here and why I'm here. So to hear someone say, for example, they value being able to express dissent about their community, about what's happening, kind of makes me reflect on what I might take for granted. For me, that's kind of a very basic way of life, growing up in Canada and being here. But to hear someone say that they value that so much, it makes me reflect on just my own place, you know, what I'm doing, what's my focus.
And how do you think we can begin to make the journey to Australia safer?
I think there are a number of ways, but one of the best ways is to encourage more interaction, and through that you build a greater awareness and make those who are coming in feel not that they're strange people in a strange land, but that they're human beings who have just changed localities, but they still need the same experience. So build more awareness in Australia, build more awareness for those who are coming in, build more interaction from events like these ones, from activities like the dialogue and the community cafe. And through that, you are kind of like bridging the gap between somebody being seen as a stranger and somebody being seen as somebody who has just changed locations and need equal and acceptance and recognition as another person. Yeah.
If the resettlement process of refugees gets a little bit more organized, and so that there could be a faster processing time, that could definitely save lots of lives. Because a lot of these people who just came to Australia on boat, they had no choice because they've been waiting for years to see whether their application is processed or not. So they have felt very helpless, and then they decided to make the decision by themselves. So I think a very, let's say, more efficient processing for resettlement cases, that would definitely help them, give them some hope so that they know that they don't have to put their life in danger.
To make the journey to Australia safer, I think, is a bit of a complex question. There's a lot of factors. And so I actually think the way to do it is to keep the conversation going. There isn't really like a magic bullet solution, although there might be some that are simple. I think the more people that are interested, the more people putting their energy in that direction, the more solutions will become apparent that we can create.
As I said, I think some of the information that people get does definitely come from the media. A lot of people don't take that opportunity in their busy lives to go out and inform themselves further, so they just see what they see on the news and what's in the papers. And I think one of the big things is the fear that, you know, if we look at the history of Australia, there have been people coming here for hundreds of years. So, you know, I'm a 7th generation Australian on one side and first on the other. So I see that my family all came here at some point, and Australia is the country it is today because of the mix of people that we have here. And to get back to recognising that and get rid of the fear that people coming from other countries are going to take away jobs or are going to, you know, influence our society in a way that's negative, to celebrate the diversity that we have and to acknowledge the achievements that people from other countries have actually brought to this society, and it's made us a much richer society because of that, to get rid of the fear and get the honest truth and facts out there.
The journey to Australia safer, there's lots of ways, and but my two big thoughts on that, it has to do with the arrival here in Australia. So one would be racism. I think that there's a big fear factor of why our policies are what they are. I think that people are ignorant and want Australia to look a certain way, and they don't appreciate and love the diversity that I've seen in the cafe today, and that flows through to our government. So I think racism is an unfortunate big issue. And the other one is the detention. So the fact that we detain people against their will is obviously unsafe, mentally as well as physically. And so I was talking amongst my group with the suggestion, which is probably just a pipe dream, but it's an idea that I think would be radical, to consider a sponsor program. There are lots of people that have big hearts, are passionate about this issue, including refugees themselves, that could start a program in the community to train sponsors, and then people like me could choose to sponsor a family who comes and lives with me, fed by me. I help them to learn skills skills, or they may even have amazing skills, and I help them assimilate into Australia.
It's from this last discussion that I found was the most moving for me, in that we discussed how colour of skin makes a difference to your welcome. And that has been very, very disturbing for me. And we have such a tremendous responsibility here in Australia to persuade all our friends and neighbours that there's no difference underneath. And if you're Italian, if you're French, if you're Spanish, you're welcomed here. No issues. But if you're wearing a veil, or if your skin is slightly darker than the bronzed beauties that we see on the beach here, then there's a problem. And you've got to persuade all your friends that you can do it, they can do it too. And start inviting people to your home with people who are slightly different from the ones that they know from their next door neighbours, and see if you can get something going there too.
Two things that struck me today, and one of the very first is how incredibly disempowering and dehumanising is the lack of choice that so many people in the room have had. That movement greatly, it's a movement again. The other thing that I can't get over, the stupidity and the insanity and the waste of the resource that we have to us. Not letting people work, the cost to the government. People are accepted as refugees eventually anyway, and we've destroyed people's mental health. We've delayed their integration into the community. We've then got to spend money to fix up the harm we've caused. It's just a massive waste of a useful resource, and the insanity of it just strikes me as insane. I don't know the word for it.
But the most important thing I learnt is that getting to Australia is not the end of the journey, particularly for people who are on so-called temporary protection visas, or whatever it's called now. I'm sorry for being so ignorant and not knowing the proper term. But this is not the end of the journey, and sometimes it's almost as bad mentally as the persecution that they were fleeing from. And it was very powerful.